let's talk about disease for a minute. What if the way we've been taught to think about it is fundamentally, well, a bit backwards? Today, we're diving into a different way of looking at it. One that sees disease less as an enemy to fight and more as a system that's just been knocked out of balance.
You know, things like pain, fatigue, inflammation, we're so used to seeing these as the problem, right? The thing we need to get rid of. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if these symptoms aren't actually the disease itself?
And that's the big idea we're exploring. What if those symptoms are really just messages, signals, kind of like a check engine light for your body, telling you that its complex, self-regulating system is off-kilter and is settled into a new state that, isn't exactly ideal? Okay, so to really get to the heart of this, we need to look past the surface, beyond the symptoms, and start asking a much deeper question about how our bodies are actually designed to work. And it all comes down to this idea of biochemical regulation. Seriously, think about your body for a second. It's this incredibly sophisticated, self-correcting machine. It's in a constant state of flux, activating things, shutting other things down. It's a nonstop dance, all designed to keep you in a stable, healthy state. So here's the real kicker. What we usually label as a disease is often just the end result, the final outcome of that regulatory system breaking down or getting stuck. It's not some random invader. It's the predictable result of a process losing its balance. And when you look at it this way, it completely changes how you see so many common conditions. I mean, take high blood pressure and low blood pressure. We treat them like two totally separate diseases, but are they? Or are they just opposite failures of the exact same pressure regulation system? Same thing with your thyroid or your cortisol levels. It's one system that's just been pushed too far one way or the other. And you know what's really fascinating? This idea, it's not new at all. In fact, a whole series of brilliant thinkers going back over 200 years saw this happening. They just didn't have our modern language of biochemistry to describe it. So let's take a quick trip back in time and meet 5 of these pioneers. Each one of them looked at the exact same problem, illness, but they each saw it from a slightly different angle, a different level, building on each other's work as they went. First up is Samuel Hahnemann. He talked about something called a derangement of the vital force. Now, I know that sounds a little mystical to our modern ears, but if you translate that, what he was really describing was a failure of the body's global regulation, its overall big picture ability to adapt and respond to whatever life throws at it. Then you have Cesare Mattei. He was focused on the blood and the lymph. He thought illness was a kind of contamination of these fluids. But think about what he was really talking about in modern terms, the body's critical transport system. This is the delivery network, the internal postal service that carries signals and supplies everywhere. A problem there is a massive communication breakdown. Wilhelm Schussler zoomed in even closer. He went right down to the cellular level. He was the one who realized that the proper balance of simple mineral salts was absolutely essential for our cells to even function, let alone communicate with each other. He was looking at regulation right where the rubber meets the road, at the cell itself. Now, Edward Bog comes along and adds a whole new and totally crucial dimension, our emotions. He was one of the first to really systematically observe that persistent emotional states like fear or grief or resentment often showed up before a physical illness did. And today, we know he was spot on. Emotions are powerful biochemical events that directly impact our hormones, our immune system, our whole regulatory network. And finally, Hans Heinrich Reckeweg brought in the vital element of time. He argued that disease rarely just appears out of nowhere. Instead, it's the end result of stress piling up and up and up over time until the body's regulatory systems just get chronically overloaded and can't bounce back anymore. Okay, so we've got these 5 different viewpoints: the global system, the transport network, the cellular level, our emotional state, and the factor of time. Were all these thinkers just describing 5 totally different things? Or were they all just looking at the same mountain but from different sides? This is where it all comes together. Because the truth is, none of them were wrong. They were just describing a different level of the exact same system. Hahnemann saw the big picture, the global response. Mattei saw the delivery routes. Schussler looked at the individual factories, the cells. Bach keyed into the emotional control panel, and Reckeweg saw how the whole system wears down over the long haul. You see, the point isn't that one was right and the others were wrong. The point is that you can't get a complete picture of health by just looking at one piece. They aren't contradictory at all. They're just incomplete on their own. They're all layers of one incredibly complex, interconnected system. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this actually mean for us right now? How does thinking this way change how we approach our own health and well-being? Well, this framework doesn't offer some kind of magic pill. What it does give us is a brand new starting point. And it all boils down to asking one simple but profoundly different question. Instead of jumping straight to what's the disease or what pill do I take, this way of thinking encourages us to pause and ask, where is the regulation failing? Is it a global problem, a transport issue? Are my cells struggling? Is there an emotional overload? Or is this just the result of long-term stress? And this leads to a much more thoughtful approach. Step 1, you still observe the symptom, you listen to the message the body is sending. But then step 2, you try to identify which level of the system that message is coming from. And only then, in step 3, can you choose an intervention that's actually designed to support that specific part of the system. And all of this leads to a really powerful conclusion. Understanding must come before intervention. When we shift our perspective, when we stop seeing disease as an enemy to be attacked and start seeing it as a complex system that's asking for help to find its balance again, well, that changes the entire conversation.